In episode number 415 of the Reasons I'm Broke podcast, we cover the Tom King and Jay Lee Twitter controversy.
We also have all the news from JusticeCon 2020.
And our comic book highlight this week, as chosen by you, is Batman Superman number 10.
All of this and so much more on today's show.
Hello and welcome to the award-winning The Reasons I'm Broke podcast, bringing you the reasons we're broke every single week, ranging from comics, movies, TV, video games, and more. I am your Emperor Palpa Kelli.
And I am associate producer Daniel.
What are you associating producing?
Zack Snyder's Justice League. We are associate producers on the film.
Oh, I thought you were still a Pokemon trainer. I'm like, when did that show up?
That was in the newest game. Although, didn't you make a movie in like the third or fourth generation? It was in the same game where they introduced the contests, the ribbon contests. That should be Emerald and that same Sapphire and Ruby. It was that generation.
You didn't make a movie, but didn't you get interviewed like multiple times by interviewing people?
No, your Pokemon is the action star in the movie. Or maybe it's the Pikachu one. That's what I might be thinking of, where your Pikachu dresses in the different outfits and then he's the hero of the film and you can choose which Pokemon's going to be the star.
That's an interesting dream that you had because I do not remember that happening.
Yeah, Gen 1ers don't know, really in the grand scheme of things, they don't know a lot about Pokemon because they only play the first one. So
I have played all of the Pokemon games. Thank you very much.
Oh, then you know about the movies that you made in the
there were movies, and it definitely wasn't in that generation because those I did play a lot.
The way we format the show is first we go through some news, we head into our Patreon shoutouts of the week, then we head into our comic book highlight as voted on by you, and finally we end with the Brocat block.
I think we needed to add a new segment in the very beginning where we argue because that's just what's been happening.
Pretty much every week based on the Pokemon name, our non-Pokemon name this week.
But our first bit of some news is also other people arguing.
Shit ton of arguing
here. This is some piping hot tea.
I love all of this. And I'm not necessarily on anyone's side, but this was a crazy fucking story that involves cancel culture that really badly backfires.
You were that meme I sent you the other day of you just scrolling through like Facebook at 3 a.m, just reading people's comments.
With the glasses, like looking at the fine print.
Like, clicking on their names to see what they're doing. Yes. But Rorschach writer Tom King originally tweeted against DC's decision to hire Jay Lee to draw the variant cover of issue number 1.
So this is where it all began. There's a
where
quote
it started
from
to boil that
simmering.
Tea.
So Tom King tweeted, quote, "Today DC put out an alternate cover to Rorschach by Jay Lee, who has also done covers for Comicsgate, a hate group. DC does not consult creators on alternate covers. I reached out to them to express my deep disappointment. Far as I'm concerned, this is the cover to Rorschach number 1, end quote. And it had the main cover image by Jorge Fornes."
For those of you who don't know, because I didn't, Comicsgate is a movement of several comic creators and fans who have spoken out against what they feel is forced diversity and social reform in the comic industry.
Primarily aimed, from what I've seen, at Marvel, especially during that era where they were replacing our known heroes with Jane Foster, Thor, and the Falcon, Captain America. It was in that era. I think it was All New, All Different was the line of comics, and that's where all of these readers got upset. All of these comic creators got upset as well, and this was Marvel's move to try to bring in this movement of diversity, these people online that were calling for diversity, and they said, oh, we can appeal to them, get them to read comics, and then we'll make all the money. What ended up happening is those people said, oh, that's great, I'm glad there's these characters, but they wouldn't come out to support these books. And what they ended up doing is alienating the readers that they did have, and that's what caused I think that's at least where I first heard of Comicsgate. So that's a little bit of background, at least on what I understand from Comicsgate. And since then, Marvel has retracted on a lot of these things. They've still kept those elements, but they've also brought back Steve Rogers from his old age, famously. They brought back Wolverine, who was replaced by X-23 for a little while. And all of these characters, for now, have returned since.
So that was some pretty strong words from Tom King.
Right. So immediately, Jay Lee had done, as Omni had pointed out in the Discord, a cover for Cyberfrog, which is Ethan Van Sciver, who's, I think, the primary voice in Comicsgate. And so because of that, Jay Lee was associated with Comicsgate.
So Tom King, he threw it out there. He stood by it for 6 hours.
Right.
6 hours after his original tweet, he provided an update. Quote, I spoke with Jay. He's not on Twitter, didn't know Comicsgate existed, and doesn't support hate of any kind. We're all good. Best possible outcome, end quote.
Oh, well, that's it, right?
They're good.
All right.
They're it. Yeah, we heard about it from Tom King, and they're good.
Yeah, we're all good, as he said.
All good.
Well, Jay Lee responded via Instagram with, quote, I'm writing this because I'm angry. These irresponsible tweets are not harmless. They do not just go away. They have real-world consequences. They can take away your job, your life, your memories. June and I were robbed of a special day. So no, we're not all good. This isn't the start of a conversation. This is the end. So please don't drag me into a world I never wanted to be a part of, nor will I ever want to be a part of. End quote.
The special day that he was talking about with June was the couple intending to spend Friday mourning the recent death of their dog, Loki.
So imagine that. You're trying to mourn this loss, and then you get bombarded with emails, phone calls, messages. Possibly, I'm sure he lost some gigs out of this. People, other publishers that immediately canceled out his work and decided to go with a different artist. And now he has to deal with that for hours, him and his wife, on a day that wasn't meant to be all of this, because Tom King, I'm sure, and I don't know if he said this yet, but I'm sure that as soon as DC announced Jay Lee was doing the variant, the anti-Comicsgate crowd immediately pressured Tom King, most likely, who then came out and said this and assumed that these people who were pressuring him to say something were right in saying that Jay Lee was directly associated with Comicsgate. And as we now know, he didn't even know what Comicsgate was. But regardless, there's a huge conversation going on now about doing this kind of thing.
Later on in the week, Tom put up another statement, quote, I'm not going to offer explanations because they sound like excuses, and I'm not asking for forgiveness or understanding. I'm just saying I see what I did, and I'm going to try and make up for it. Thank you. I have kept up the tweets up to this point in order to show that I am not hiding my actions. I will now take them down. End quote.
For a few days, he refused. People were saying, take the tweets down, take it down. You're spreading misinformation. And he finally decided to do it after that update. So this was a huge misfire and a huge example of how not to use cancel culture, I think I would say, or an irresponsible use of it. And as Jay was saying, someone with as many followers as Tom can absolutely influence whether or not these anti-Comicsgate people were not going to cost Jay Lee any sales on that variant. I think that's irrelevant. Those people were not going to buy the cover. And I'm still I think you and I both fall in the camp of if you don't want to support a certain artist for whatever beliefs or reasons, or you don't like their art, then don't buy that particular variant or go with a different cover or don't support the artist. That's all you can do, right? Vote with your dollar. But what Tom was doing here is that he was now influencing other publishers and the industry as a whole to lose the man money. And there's a conversation here to be said of whether or not it's right to do if Jay Lee was associated with Comicsgate or not. And I think personally the right thing for Tom would have been to just say, I don't make decisions on variants. Buy whichever cover you'd like, instead of saying there's only one cover as far as I'm concerned, then really picking that hill to die on. I think it wasn't a very PR move.
Definitely not. And not that this excuses any of his actions, but I kind of go back to saying, I feel like he's fairly new, at least having this amount of fame, right? It's only been in like the last, 5 years maybe?
Probably, if you're comparing it to most big name writers and artists, I would say so.
Right. So he's still fairly new to this, and as social media continues to grow, I think there's still a lot of uncharted territory. So he probably thought he was doing the right thing. He probably got pressured from fans. Even though he's been in this space for a while, he still wants the fans to really like him and to keep following him, especially after he did that stuff with Selena and Bruce and got a lot of backlash for it. And he just really didn't verify his sources. And he was just like, yep, this is what it is. I'm standing. He probably fell into that trap of like, well, if I don't say anything, that speaks louder than, my silence speaks louder than my words. And just really went that direction and didn't look long term and stop and breathe for a second and say, maybe I should talk to Jay first before I start throwing these things out there.
I think another reason he was pressured to just immediately jump into this was the Comicsgate community is notorious for picking on Tom's books and his works due to, for example, they were talking about not Heroes in Crisis, Mr. Miracle. That was a big one that they nitpicked, and also not nitpicked, but they did criticize it for its dialogue and some of the actions. They felt like Mr. Miracle, for example, was written as a very beta male when you read it. And you can definitely see that as you're reading it in many ways. And for them, that's not the character they grew up with. That's not Mr. Miracle as he was originally created. And that's the view they stand on. And because of that, they didn't like a lot of his work. And he's also criticized heavily for the way he does write the relationship between Bruce and Selena, like the back cat, and I get that too. And that was something that I was, when we were talking about it, like there was a lot of things there that I was saying Bruce wouldn't say that or Batman wouldn't say that, but you were enjoying the relationship between the two characters, that when they do things like that, it's like you take that in and that's fine. You still enjoyed the book as a whole. So Tom, seeing that this movement was already against his works anyway, probably said, well, I don't care if I'm pissing them off. The problem is Jay Lee wasn't a part of that movement that criticizes him so much. So there's a lot of weird things that definitely did not align here. And he went and almost tried to really cancel out the career of someone that he clearly had no contact with and did not know well enough of. Maybe the guy was just making covers for whoever fucking paid him, like a lot of artists do. And someone who isn't entrenched in social media, that does not care who is paying him for what cover or whatever, or isn't aware of it. And he said in his own, Jay Lee even said, don't pull me into these politics, essentially saying, I'm just an artist. I'm just doing what I love. I'm getting paid for making these covers, and I'm not endorsing any movements.
Do you think this was a PR stunt to bring more highlight to this book?
No, I think this hurts Tom a lot.
Probably.
I think it's going to help out Jay personally. I think that's a lot of people are going to immediately backtrack, or maybe the Comicsgate community will come forth and really support Jay Lee a lot because of this incident. Because I'm sure even after the retract or the deleted tweets from Tom, I'm sure there's still some damage or some loss there that Jay Lee suffered. And I'm always curious if stuff like this has any legal grounds. Like, could Jay, if he wanted to, go after Tom legally? Is that like a slander thing?
Yeah, I mean, technically, because there was no, and I don't know, I learned about it once, like exactly what was in slander, but I'm sure they could find some way because there was nothing truthful about it. It wasn't like he was, stating facts. He was saying, yeah, this guy did this thing that is untrue, and pretty much like you should not support him at all within that. I don't think he will, right? I think Jay was mostly pissed off that all this happened when he should have been mourning his dog, which is the loss of a family member, right? And so I'm sure that's where he gets the most hurt from, is that moment was taken away. And it wasn't even like when he thinks back to his dog, it's always going to be like, on the day he died, I had to deal with this other bullshit.
Hopefully Jay and Tom can figure something out so that they can both eventually say that we're all good, right? Hopefully
listen, I hope so too, but I don't see it happening.
We've got some news here from the animated world of DC Comics. To celebrate the 10th anniversary of the animated Batman Under the Red Hood, Warner Brothers is releasing a branching version of the film where the viewers can decide the fate of Jason Todd.
Can you decide to make him less whiny?
Maybe one of these will be. I'm guessing if he doesn't die.
The decisions will deviate from traditional DC canon in which Jason will become Red Hood, Red Robin, or a version of Hush.
Quite different from what we've seen in the comics, and I think that's really neat. The short film will also reunite much of the voice cast of Batman Under the Red Hood, which is one of WB's best received DC animated films. Even now, I hear customers bring up the film and talk about how much they love Batman Under the Red Hood.
This project is a nod to Batman number 427, which ended in a cliffhanger where readers could call in and vote on the fate of Jason Todd.
I hear that there's unfinished sketches of 428 on if he had lived in the DC vaults, and hopefully one day they'll make those available in some form. What do you think of this project to celebrate the 10th anniversary of Under the Red Hood?
I think it's pretty cool. As long as I can make him less whiny, we're fine.
Yeah, I'm curious if Red Robin, why that version is how that's going to work into the lore, but I'm sure they'll make it work in their in their version of the continuity here.
Of course, it's definitely interesting. I think it's a really great take on how to celebrate this, right? Because they could have just released a comic and here's a comic of if he lived, right? But no, let's make it this whole animated thing, and so fans can really enjoy it.
I'm not sure what the packaging is going to be like, where if this is now the standard version of Batman Under the Red Hood, where you can watch the film as it was made and as it was based on the original comics, you can find the trade paperback. It's called Batman Under the Red Hood, and it's a thicker trade paperback. We sell it all the time to Red Hood fans. But I hope that these are the special features, right? The short films, hey, do you want to decide the fate? And even in the menu, you can have it where you can have the branching decisions or the original 2010 version of the film.
I definitely think that that's the route that makes the most sense, right? You're not going to, how many people are really going to buy a Blu-ray where, I always have to make a decision? No, I want to put it on and walk out of the room and just hear it in the background.
We also have a huge chunk of detail from the live-action side of the DC universe. At JusticeCon 2020, director Zack Snyder revealed the first in-motion look at Superman in his black suit.
It was so cool.
Apparently not everyone thought that. They were expecting, I guess, the full film to be revealed.
The whole thing.
I think it was... What'd you think of the clip when they showed it?
I thought it was really cool. It wasn't... I miss the mullet, right? I really do.
Beard, yeah.
And the beard. But I definitely wasn't expecting that particular scene to be black suit. And remind me if I'm wrong, because I've only seen Justice League once, I think. But that portion of it, at least the Alfred portion, was in the trailer, but it wasn't actually in the movie, correct?
Correct. It was considered one of the deleted scenes, and then they had that trailer where Alfred says, well, let's just hope you're not too late. And there was all that speculation of, is that a Green Lantern? Or is that Supergirl? There was a lot of questions as to what it was, and now we know the full scene. When they put it in the deleted version of the film, the deleted scenes, those were done without Zach's permission. And Zach has already said, and I'm glad that the silver on the S showed up really well. I know in the teaser image that he put up on Vero of "This is my Superman," it was inverted instead, where the S was black and the back was silver. But this one matches more the comic book look and the Superman Beyond version too. And really the original suit from Man of Steel, where the S is in silver, so that continuity sticks and matches with what he did in the past.
Either way, really cool. I'm glad that we got to see this. At this point, I'm happy for whatever we get, right? Because they could have just announced we're going to get this movie and then not tell us anything else until it actually came out. So they're still giving us things. We're still getting hints. We still know what's going on. So all them haters, stop hating. Be happy for what you have. We need to have a lot more gratitude over this, because Zach and WB and HBO Max don't have to show another fucking thing until the thing releases. Honestly, if they don't have to. This thing is coming out. People that are getting HBO Max for this are getting it no matter what, even if there isn't a single other trailer. I think, yes, the trailer is great for fans like us who are excited to watch this, but we're already sold on this thing. They don't have to show any more clips, and I'm glad DC Fandom is happening, and we're going to get a lot of answers then as to what this project is. But honestly, if they didn't show us anything else, we would still be subscribed and watching on HBO Max. We do have a quote here from Zach, though, about the black suit. He said, quote, "I would argue for the black suit all the time, and they said it was not a good idea. We had done a little adjustment to the suit that would make it easier to adjust. We knew how to do this transformation. We had done a bunch of private experiments to make sure we could switch it because, frankly, the studio was just not into it. I knew it was the correct evolution for him after he rose from the dead. But the perception of the black suit was just, you're trying to make the movie dark and not hilarious, end quote.
And that's one of the jokes he made in the film of, yeah, the guy just died and he came back from the dead and he's going to be spewing jokes. And it's like, no, he can't fucking do any of that stuff. It's not supposed to be a happy, funny moment.
Right.
You know, it's a somber one. He's rediscovering, he's coming back to life from the fucking dead. He has to, you saw it in the fight against the Justice League, you know, he sees the X-ray, like it's a rebirth, right? So it's not going to come easy. He's not going to be the exact Superman from BVS right off the bat.
Plus funnier.
He's back and he's funny.
Can he stand up on a stage Seinfeld style and be like, let me tell you about hell?
I love that Zach and his team knew to already, they're like, we're going to make these changes in some form. This is going to happen. And I love that they made alterations to the suit so that it would be easier to change with After Effects into the black and white or black and silver suit that we saw in Man of Steel. Obviously, if he had it his way, he would have used the same black and silver suit that we saw in Man of Steel again, and that would have made it much easier to film. But he ended up compromising in a way, and then later was going to change the colors, which I thought was really brilliant. And I thought it was, you know, he said that they're lucky that they did make those changes because, you know, they never knew if they would get this opportunity, and they do, and that makes those changes a lot easier today than if he was trying to do it with that original suit without the experiments.
I'll go back to this over and over about this project. I'm sad it got canceled, but now he can do everything he wants to. Like 100% of everything he wants to. And it's so great, and I'm so excited. You know, we love Black Suit Superman. Happy that we're getting to see him. And yeah, I agree with Zach. I agree with Zach. It's just the perfect evolution for him.
Imagine the shitstorm, though, that would have come out of it with the people, because obviously the MCU sheep that were criticizing, these are the people that don't read any of the comics. They just watch the movies. Same ones that were complaining that the DC movies were too grim dark. As soon as they saw that black suit, they would have been like, he's literally making him dark. And not knowing that that is literally the death and return of Superman from the comic books.
But it's too dark. Half civilization getting destroyed is not too dark.
I could only fucking imagine the fucking nonsense articles and YouTube takes. He also had a reference when asked if he was going to use any of Joey Whedon's footage to help him finish Zack Snyder's Justice League. He said, quote, I would destroy the movie. I would set it on fire before I use a single frame that I did not photograph, end quote. Spoken like a true artist. He wants this version of the film to be his.
It's a little dramatic.
I think it shows how serious he is.
I get that, and I don't disagree with him, and I would rather it just all be his. But that's something like a 13-year-old girl would say. Like, I would just set it on fire before I let her come to my party. I would set the whole house on fire.
I think also what he's saying is he would rather, the easier way to say it is he would rather not do it at all than use a single frame that isn't his. And that's the part of no compromise, right? And I don't know if he would have had to if he didn't get any of this additional funding. And I'm sure that was a part of the agreement of, unless I get this funding, I'm not doing this. And there's this huge movement. He said at JusticeCon too that this is the highest hashtag trending movie that WB has ever had. And it's for a movie they never released. And he was saying that that's probably a problem from the marketing department of Warner Brothers of like, what are you guys doing? If you can't get films that you are releasing all the time in, or not just superhero, but all your movies, and they can't trend like Release the Snyder Cut did for a movie that didn't come out. But like, that's a huge problem. And that's the leverage that he had. He's like, this is the most trended movie you've ever had. Give me the funding. Let me finish it. No compromises.
Yes, but he also could have just said no. He didn't have to say he would set it on fire.
He got passionate about it, and I respect that.
Okay.
And that also
you're going to agree with anything he says.
Well, I think that also speaks to the frustration he had making this, and he also made it very clear that they were trying to spin it, and we reported it just this way because this is what the articles were also saying, that Zach chose Joe Whedon to finish off the rest of the movies, which were just minor reshoots to the film. Little did we know that 80% of the fucking movie was Joey Whedon of the theatrical cut of Justice League. So now he made it clear that he and his crew left because of the death of Autumn, unfortunately, and he said that they were too distracted anyway to even care about what the studio wanted to do with the film after that, and that it was a studio decision to bring on Joey Whedon. So he made it clear that they had nothing to do and had no relationship prior to this of, I trust you to finish this film, like they were trying to spin it to, I'm assuming, preserve whatever ticket sales they could from the fan base, that the little fan base they still had.
All of his secrets don't stop there, though. Snyder also said he almost leaked the trailer to his cut at Comic-Con 2019.
Yeah, he wanted to slip a little bit of money to the projectionist and, show off a black and white trailer to his cut. That would have been a massive marketing thing right there. That would have also... it worked out, right, the way we did it. And he was saying that he's glad he didn't.
Waited,
because they might have gotten pissed off and just not wanting to do anything with him, and he may have gotten into legal trouble. I don't know, but I think that's how, as recent as last year, he was like, let's just fucking try to get this trailer out and get this thing done. I'm glad that he still has passion to do right by his crew and the actors and the characters to finish this for Warner Brothers, and he expressed a lot of gratitude to HBO Max and the team over at HBO Max for working with him to get this done. And I think that's a matter of the new regime now, right, under Warner Brothers and HBO, and not the team anymore that essentially pushed him out of these films.
Right.
He did also reveal that his copy of what would have been his theatrical cut of the film is in black and white. He said that he was driving through California and saw a billboard for Justice League and saw that the saturation, you've seen that billboard, the saturation is so incredibly high, and that it enraged him that he went home and his cut of the film, he's like, I can only watch this in black and white because he was reminded of the billboard and he was so upset by it. And that also explains why anytime he would reveal frames from it, it was all in black and white.
Oh.
Exactly. And they did ask him, because there was a huge amount of speculation of whether Zack Snyder's Justice League would be in black and white because of the frames that he was sharing. He said this is why it was in black and white, and that his would be in color, and the color would match the same gradient he's used for BVS and Man of Steel. And he called it, his color. So whatever Zack and the team decided to use.
The Snyder color? Is Crayola going to come out with a crayon now?
That'd be cool.
Snyder.
He also revealed that the movie can be watched as a film. He called it League of Thrones, but strongly hinted that it would be released as a series. And he didn't confirm it, but he also said, but you can just binge it as a film too. So I took that as, yes, initially it will release as a series, and we had talked about that before, where it would retain the most amount of subscribers, at least for another month or two, right? If you can double your months in people that wanted to watch Zack Snyder's Justice League, you can do it in that way. And I'm sure that he said also that because it's releasing in this way, he can have it at the length that he wants, which is, we're hearing 4 hours long now.
Wow.
Way more than the 214. So this series length allows him to do that. And I'm 99% sure that they will then re-release it as the 4-hour cut in film format, in Blu-ray, or even on HBO Max. You can choose, after it all releases as a series, to watch it in one sitting as a film.
Yeah, it would be really easy to do because they don't even really need to re-release it. You just have a feature within that particular series where when you get to the end of the episode, it just continues on to the next one without, a lead-in, without credits, without anything like that. It's super easy. You see it even now, like when you're binging something, it'll flip to the next episode and it'll skip the credit, the opening, and you just lead right into it. So they could do that so easy, and then absolutely release it on Blu-ray as the full thing. We will obviously, at some point, many times, I'm sure, will sit and binge the whole thing, watch all 4 hours in one sitting, and just tears streaming down your face.
I think where a lot of people got worried is that they thought there would be weird lead-ins or recaps or a TV
They're not going to do that.
and they want it to be a film just like the last two were. And Zach already said no compromises here. So this is the project that he wants to make as intended. And as he already hinted on this, you will also be able to watch it as a film and not just as a series.
Right. I think really it's smartest to release it in 4 parts. Because then HBO could, like you said, keep subscribers longer too, right? But sit down with Zach and say, hey, listen, we're not making you compromise your vision. By doing this, we can give you a little more money and a little more time.
Right.
If you tell us this has to be a movie, we're going to work with you as best you can, but you're probably looking at, are people really going to tune in for more than 3 hours? We would, obviously, right? But you're talking about anybody else who might watch this, and yeah, you're looking at about 3 hours, but you release it as a series, and now you got way more people going back, and I know we'll talk about it very soon, but the Watchmen series, people who didn't even know what Watchmen were watching this series, because I talked to some of the people I work with, and they're like, I've never read it, I've never seen the original movie, but I watched this because I heard great things. This is going to be the same thing.
And as the joke has been made many times on Twitter, now the MCU sheep can take their bathroom break because clearly they, as they mentioned, what film were they fucking talking about where they're like, it's 3 hours long, it can't be that long, I have to use a bathroom break. I think it was their Scorsese film or
something.
There was something where we kept making those jokes of, you guys better wear diet, you guys want. That's what it was. They were criticizing a lot of these longer version films, and then when Endgame came out to, I think, being 3 hours long, we were like, oh, you guys better wear your diapers. Because, and they were also saying, like, I'm going to go to the bathroom before the film, and I can't, because I don't want to get up there in the movie, and everyone's like, you can't fucking hold it, even without using the bathroom, right before the film, for the whole fucking film? Because Are you 9?
They have to drink their slushie during the film. Their icy freeze, whatever it's called.
Well, they don't have to wear diapers now, because they can watch it at home. They can hate watch Zack Snyder's Justice League.
They can say, I guess it was okay.
Did you see that Twitter account that said, I'm a verified Rotten Tomato reviewer and I can't wait to give this a rotten review to get it lower than Justice League? And they immediately got fucking flooded by Zack's fans. And they made their account private. They changed their Twitter name to I'm just kidding, I love Zack Snyder, and all this other stuff. Please stop DMing me. And you know what though? I bet you there are many critics already that are the ones that we know were giving bad reviews to BVS and Man of Steel, and then turning around and heading to red carpet premieres for Disney's MCU films, and it's like interesting. And then those are getting all the positive reviews. So we know those are going to be there, but we're getting the film as intended without any worry about what critics they're going to please. This is a movie for the fans, and Zach keeps saying that. This is for the fans. This is not for the critics. This is not for the general audience. This is for the fans.
Something else for the fans. Last thing that he announced that you were so excited for, and you mentioned it at the very beginning, there will be associate producer t-shirts that will be available during DC Fandom, along with the full trailer.
Zach revealed that everyone that helped make this film make it possible is an associate producer. He said if you've ever supported the film in any way, you're an associate producer. And the way it's going to work at DC Fandom, I think they said the first 100 or first 1,000 shirts are going to be free, and you get it at this digital event. You can claim your shirt. And then after that, once the first 100 or 1,000 are gone, you can buy one through Ink to the People, and the proceeds will once again...
That's amazing.
...go to suicide prevention, which is amazing. And it's turning it all into a good cause, and it's an amazing t-shirt. He showed off the front of it. The back says associate producer, and you can put your name on the back, but the front of it has the JL logo. It's got a heart in the center, and he also said it's full of Easter eggs. So that's for us to decipher and check out. There's one of a little page turn, it looks like, at the bottom of the logo. The top Roman numerals do have the start ending in 2021, and I think the start of the DCEU or the start of the campaign, but I'm pretty sure it's when Man of Steel started, when it released, and then into 2021. But then the page, so people were saying, okay, so is that the end of the Justice League? Is there no Justice League 2 or 3? But others are saying that the page turn and the logo are a hint of, but this is just another portion of the story, that there is more to come.
What have the stars told you? Have you analyzed those yet?
We're too busy analyzing Steppenwolf's voice from Batman v Superman.
Oh my goodness.
So that's the project right now.
All those unsolved mysteries could be solved by now.
Probably. What do you think of the associate producer? Like, that's really cool, right?
That's really cool.
A neat thing for the fans.
Yes, I love that he recognizes that this wouldn't be what it was without all of you, without everyone who helped support, without everyone who got that hashtag trending, without all the donations, all the years of fighting and asking for this. And for him to come back and be like, yep, you are all a part of this too, I think is huge. And then to be able to do it in a way that also helps out a great cause is, really the cause that started all of this I'm going to cry. It's so sweet. It's absolutely amazing.
He also said that with everything that was done, even if the deal had never gone through and the film would have never gotten made, he said it was always worth doing from the beginning because lives were saved. Literal lives were saved through these campaigns, through these donations. And that alone, he said, just saving one life already made all of this worth it, no matter what the end product would have been or never would have been. And that's what it's all about, is doing a positive thing in the world. My favorite meme to come out of this, too, has been the upgrade meme, where at the top it shows Snyder cultists, at the bottom shows associate producers.
Are you going to get a bumper sticker now for your car so that everyone knows you're an associate producer?
People are like, I need to update my IMDb page. I might add it to our LinkedIn.
You should. We have a LinkedIn?
Oh, yeah. Hell yeah, we have a LinkedIn.
What do people use LinkedIn for?
Mainly for job searches. But it's a good way to connect with comic editors, comic writers, and artists.
Interesting. Now I know.
For when I created it, it's just another place to be at, another way to get the word out there about the podcast and about the different even memes that we share out there. I think it's just a fun thing to be in as many places as possible.
I learn something new every day.
To wrap all of this up, Zach said that many questions will be answered at DC Fandom as far as if it's going to be a series and or a full film. What the full trailer is going to show way more. And he particularly picked the black suit because he knew it wasn't going to appeal to, it's not for like the general audience to immediately run to. It's not like a, Martian Manhunter or Green Lantern reveal or anything like that, but it was for the fans. Like, here it is. Here's the black suit as intended. And I think I know most of the people that I interact with on Twitter loved it and were happy that he showed that. They showed it several times and it's already on YouTube in better resolution. So lots of great stuff. But DC Fandom looks to be the event that's going to have all of this answered, and we'll have that coming up near the end of August.
So close. This has already been like the fastest year of my life. So
yeah.
August will just blink by. Another really amazing event coming up is the Emmys. And we did have to talk about a show because we can't not, right? Breaking records. But Warner Media Entertainment has received 112 Primetime Emmy nominations for the 72nd Awards. One show in particular.
HBO received 107 nominations, TBS received 4, and True TV received 1. But the big highlight for HBO Max was, as you mentioned earlier, Watchmen.
They received 26 nominations. This is the most of any show ever, correct?
Definitely of any program this year. I don't know if Game of Thrones or any of them got more than 26 in the past, but this was a huge highlight for Warner Brothers and HBO.
So some of these nominations include Outstanding Limited Series, Outstanding Lead Actor in a Limited Series or Movie for Jeremy Irons, Outstanding Lead Actress in a Limited Series or Movie for Regina King, 3 for Outstanding Directing for a Limited Series, for Nicole Castle, Steph Green, and Stephen Williams, 3 for Outstanding Support Actor in a Limited Series or Movie for,
Yahya Abdul-Mateen II. He was also Black Manta in Aquaman.
Oh, okay. Jovan Adipo. Oh, man. Why are they throwing these names at me? And Louis Gossett Jr. Also, Outstanding Supporting Actress in a Limited Series or Movie for Jean Smart. And Outstanding Writing for a, obviously, Limited Series or Movie or Dramatic Special with Damon Lindelof and Cord Jefferson.
The Emmys are set to release on September 20th. I know it was a very well-received show from viewers, especially the comic subs that we see on Wednesdays. They were talking about Watchmen and how great it was and all of the different references from the comic and even from Zack Snyder's film that they used in this as well. but I did not expect it to receive the nominations that it did. I know some people were saying it came out, 6 months too early, especially with the current events, that it would have really hit hard now. But I think a lot of people are discovering the show during the quarantine and during this period of time. So I think it is having that effect that is growing to be really appreciated among a lot of viewers out there. And clearly the Emmy Awards were ones that this thing ran away with. I know Netflix ended up topping out HBO this year for most nominations overall. And a lot of people attribute that to the fact that Game of Thrones isn't around anymore, which used to get a lot of these. But Watchmen really took its place. And yes, it's a one-time thing because they said they have no plans for another season, but holy shit, what a way to do one and off and just run away with these. It's going to take several awards home. There's no way it doesn't. So either way, it's a huge success for them. And I think they should be very proud of the show.
You and I talked about it. I mean, the show a lot when we were watching it. It really was an extremely solid show, something that people could enjoy whether they saw any of Watchmen prior, whether they read any of Watchmen, or if they're just kind of new to the series. Definitely very well put together. I think probably my favorite episode is the one where they're going back and forth in time.
Yes.
Like the way it was directed was just so interesting and kept you engaged. And like I said, even really enriched the Watchmen movie for me because I lived the moments that Manhattan's talking about where he's like, I'm in two places at once. And like we were in two places at once for those things. So if you haven't checked it out, I definitely recommend it. I can't wait to see what it takes home.
I know we were lukewarm on Jeremy Irons as Ozymandias because it was very different than what we saw in the comics or in the movie even. Were you surprised that he got a nomination for Best Leading?
Yes, but again, I also think we were going into it with the mindset of here's Ozymandias, right? Did he act great? Was he a great character? I mean, like, did I believe his character? Yes. Did I believe he was Ozymandias? No. But that doesn't mean that he didn't do a great job. Speaking of which, and I haven't even mentioned this to you, so I'm taking this class right now, which is Habitable Worlds, where I've learned way more about the atmosphere this week than I ever wanted to learn in my life.
Oh, that'll help us as we look at the stars and try to align where Zack Snyder took this picture from.
Exactly. I've learned about the water zone and how we're not in it because our atmosphere does whatever, and greenhouse gases would be here whether we were assholes or not.
All right.
But they wouldn't be this bad. Anyway, I digress. The planet that Dr. Manhattan went to was Europa. Do you remember the moon of Jupiter?
Right.
That's where Jeremy Irons was Europa. Okay. It is actually the only place in our solar system where we think there might actually be other life.
Okay.
Because we believe that there is liquid water underneath its icy surface that stays liquid because Jupiter is so big that it warps the planet and warms it up, just like you would with a paperclip.
Gotcha.
Now you know. So I learned that. And I was like, oh my God, that's why they picked that planet.
Manhattan's up there creating life.
Manhattan's up there making life. Anyway, it was pretty cool when I learned that. I was like, oh, I can tie this back into Watchmen.
There you go. That's really neat.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty cool. And then there's another moon around Saturn called Titan, which actually has liquid methane. And they're like, maybe there's some crazy life that we don't know about because we only look at life in the manner in which we know it. That's the only way that we look for it because we're like, yeah, we can't understand anything else. So this is what we're looking for. I can also tell you what gases are in stars and planets by their reflection of light.
Well, I can tell you once again, September 20th, to find out how many of these are won by Watchmen. But continuing on the HBO news, we have our monthly segment of What's New on HBO Max. These are the August 2020 highlights.
The first one on here is Batman 1989.
My first introduction to Batman right before Batman the Animated Series. Holy shit, I loved this movie. And it's one that it defined the Batman for many years and for many generations. I'm glad they're all on HBO Max, and I'm going to be playing this one a lot in the shop.
We also have Batman and Robin from 1997.
So notes are a little trickier. It's the hyphen there. It's supposed to be through, or the dash is supposed to be through. So we're going to get Batman and Batman Returns, Batman Forever, and Batman and Robin. So the full, I guess, Tim Burton verse, if you want to call it that. Although now with Flashpoint, they're considering the last 2 movies not in canon. But regardless, those 4 films are now going to all be on HBO Max. So, for example, if you want to go watch the theatrical cut of Batman Forever, and if we eventually get the Schumacher cut, you can kind of see where the differences lie and how some of these deleted scenes may or may not have enhanced the original version. So, all in all, from 1989 to 1997, all of those Batman films on HBO Max.
But you can't stop with just those Batman. We're also getting Batman Begins and The Dark Knight.
Those were on Netflix, but now we know they're heading to HBO Max, which is awesome. A modern classic is Blade Runner. We're going to get the final cut, which was released back in 2007. There were so many versions of Blade Runner that came out. There was a one with the voiceover by Harrison Ford, but this is the final cut that is hitting HBO Max, and beautiful film to watch. If you haven't seen it, I think it's one of those that you should watch once before you die.
I haven't, so we'll definitely have to add it to our list. Next up, we have Harley Quinn seasons 1 and 2. This just kind of leads me to believe that they are probably merging DC Universe and HBO Max at some point.
A good one from Joaquin Phoenix. I believe he won the Oscar for this one. Or no, I'm sorry, Joker was his first Oscar, but he was nominated for Walk the Line. But this is the kind of biographical film from Johnny Cash, and it is really, really good. He released an album to go with the film where he recreated and sang a lot of Johnny Cash's old songs. Some people prefer his versions for some songs.
Huh.
And obviously you have the originals that are great too, but I remember loving the film back when it came out, and I can't wait to rewatch it.
This was right before his short-lived rap career, right?
Yeah, that's right.
We also have Inuyasha.
Another one that's moving from Netflix over to HBO Max.
Love the fan fiction. Show's okay.
Continuing on the anime, this one's huge. I've been seeing more and more subscribers ask for the manga, and it is Mob Psycho Season 1.
Never heard of it. Is it a romance?
No idea. I haven't seen it.
If
it's on HBO Max, though, it's got to be quality, so I'll be sure to check it out.
Only the best. We also have Richard Jewell.
This is one I wanted to see in theaters, and we didn't see it in theaters. This is the one with the guy that sees the bomb at the convention.
Yeah.
I forgot what it was, and then
it was like a fair or something, a music a festival, something.
Based on true events, directed by Clint Eastwood, and that's where they tried to essentially make him
admit to
the
that
bombing.
He did it. And then his mom was like, no!
Right.
Yeah, we're going to have to see this. We also have Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn.
Moving along here, we've got Batch 3 of Looney Tunes. It is the new Looney Tunes cartoons. They are awesome. They're just like the originals. I highly recommend checking them out. They are funny, they're well animated, and they look to be hand-drawn. I see no 3D animation in this.
And the final one on the list is The Way Back.
Support Ben Affleck and his latest film, which deals and tackles probably a lot of the same issues he went through as he recovered from his alcoholism. So that's another one, another great addition to this full lineup of the August 2020 highlights for HBO Max.
But that does take care of all of our news for this week. Now we can move on into our Patreon shoutouts, the thank yous to everyone who makes the show possible.
First shout out this week goes out to Alexander on Twitter at Swordfish Show. You can also find them at purpleswordfish.com. It redirects you straight to his YouTube streaming channel.
He said, quote, "The Marlins are the best team in baseball right now. Undefeated in 2020. Hashtag fighting fish," end quote.
That was a great tweet. He is a big Marlins fan. I don't know if the Marlins have won or lost since that tweet, but that's the mentality to have. And I used to have, I use this same mentality against the Cubs because anytime they lose, or whether the Cubs lose or win their first game, I always tell my Cubs fans friends, because I'm a White Sox guy, and I always tell them, better luck next year.
There's always next year.
Yeah, there's always next year, guys. But they won today, and I'm like, look, you can just see them. They're losers. And here's the problem is I grew up in Chicago, or in Chicago and in the suburbs of Chicago, and they're mainly Cubs fans up there. For whatever reason, that's just the fan base over there. Maybe they market themselves better, whatever it may. I think it's really because they were aired on WGN. And I remember those games coming up on WGN all the time. And I don't believe the White Sox games were as aired. And one of my old coworkers, Lester, he lived in Virginia, and they used to air the WGN channel there, including the Cubs games. So because of that, he's also a Cubs fan. And I'm sure that's the case with a lot of states that did pick up WGN, and they watched whatever baseball was on because you didn't have cable, you didn't have streaming like you do today. So they just watched the Cubs game. They watched any baseball that's around, and in turn, you became a Cubs fan. Long story short, I was constantly, as a White Sox fan, it's just like the DCEU and the MCU, right? If you like that team, you're wrong. And it's just like any fan base. You're wrong for liking that team. So I was constantly in fights with these Cubs fans. When the White Sox won the World Series, oh my God, they hated it. And they would say things like, well, they still suck. And it's like, really? They're literally the best team in baseball this year. But it was like, we didn't care. We were celebrating. And then the year they won the World Series after almost 100 years or whatever the fuck it was, then I pissed them off with, man, they had to buy their way into World Series. They had to cheat their way into the World Series. That sucks. You guys can't even get a legitimate win ever. You will never win another World Series, Cubs fans. So that's where all of this rivalry comes from my babyhood till now. And there's a lot of Cubs fans here too in Florida. I don't know why. Maybe WGN aired here too.
Well, I mean, Northerners like move down.
That's true. If I moved down, then obviously others did too.
Because you moved down, others did too.
So good on Alex. That's again, undefeated Marlins. That's the shit I would say too with the White Sox. I hope to actually be able to watch a White Sox game this year.
Next up, we have Bobby on Twitter at Cuban Slim.
Bobby's been streaming Final Fantasy XIV on his YouTube channel. If you're on our Discord bot always puts up a link whenever Bobby or the Lazy Gaming guys go live. So if you're not on our Discord yet, make sure to be in it. There is a link in today's show notes.
Bobby also wished me happy birthday this week.
Nice.
So thank you, Bobby.
Now you're going to have Brocats wishing you a happy birthday after this episode.
That's fine. I'll take it.
Next shout out goes out to John on Instagram at Johnny2Chips. You can also find him on the YouTube podcast, The Dom Chiodo Show, but he posted on his own YouTube channel
a comic book room tour.
Has all of his personal original pages, original artwork, figurines, statues, figures, trades, comic books. Amazing collection. I am very envious of John's everything. He definitely has been a hardcore collector for many years, and it definitely is showcased really well at his place. And you can check that out also. Our Discord put up a link anytime he does also upload on his YouTube channel on our Discord. So another reason to join the Discord so you don't miss the YouTube channels from our Patreon Brocat Core.
Have you ever done a video tour of our comic room / studio?
Not yet, and I've thought about that, but that is also time invested. And you know how things are right now with a 2.5-year-old.
I sure do.
It's a miracle we get the podcast out every week on its own. It's definitely a labor of love.
Our next shout out goes out to Neil on Twitter at inmats68 or on Insta at inmats.photography.
He posted an image of his Majin Vegeta versus Goku statues. The comments were talking about how it is one of the most epic battles in all of Dragon Ball.
I don't care about the battle. I just care where Vegeta hugs his kid and then blows himself up.
A lot of people still say that should have been where he died.
No.
And they should have never, that was a high point for the character, they were saying.
Yeah, but then he got even better.
What would you say his high point really is?
Changing diapers.
All right. Well, that's not quite, sacrificing yourself for your family and son. But
if it was a poopy diaper, sure. Tell me that there haven't been some poopy diapers where you're just like, I would just rather blow up.
I love you, son.
Like if you had to choose between a blowout or blowing yourself up.
I now get why people in the comments section, because I never, that I recall, had a gagging reflex or reaction to a poopy diaper. And I've seen these YouTube videos of these dads that are like changing the diaper for the first time. And it's like, what the fuck are you guys doing? Like, change a fucking diaper. Like, that's what I'm thinking too. And they're like gagging and about to throw up. It's like, are you fucking serious? It's baby poop. And I know now he's a kid, right? But that still doesn't faze me like these guys on there. So to me, like, yeah, it does take a lot of training and changes for Vegeta, right? Because he's able to do that. But that also makes me mad for those reaction videos.
Like, just suck it up and do it.
Just fucking change it. Jesus fucking Christ. Last shout out this week goes out to Manu on Twitter at manunited0710. I don't know how or if it got changed or deleted from docs, and I don't remember if we had done a shout out for Manu back when he signed up about 3 months ago to back us on Patreon, but I don't recall. I think we missed from the beginning when he signed on to do a shout out. So this whole month, we're doing a shout out for Manu every single week.
A month of Manu.
It's the Lazy Gaming guys just finished doing their apology tour. Tom King is doing his now, and they say things go in 3, so now it's our turn for the apology tour. So Manu, here's your first shout out of this month. Every single week you're going to get one.
Manu did a retrospective episode of the Titanic on the Film Exiles podcast.
Was it called The Titanic or just Titanic?
I don't know. I always called it The Titanic.
The Titanic. I think it was just Titanic. But yeah, they went down memory lane and talked about the impact the Titanic film back when it released, what it still has today, what it means for James Cameron's career. And they talked about each of the characters and what their parts were, the historical accuracy of the event compared to the movie. Great deep dive. If you're into film at all, and or even the DC Universe, DCEU, definitely make sure to subscribe to the Film Exiles podcast as well. It is a great dive into not only classic film, but also modern ones.
Do you remember your first viewing or your first introduction to that movie?
I saw it in theaters with my parents, and I think we saw it a few times. They talked about it in elementary school. They showed it in elementary school, our teachers, because they all loved it. And I only had women teachers up until junior high. So naturally is that sexist of me to say? Naturally, they love Titanic as well. But I think everyone loved Titanic back. So women and men, everyone loved that fucking movie back when it released. So when Rose shows up nude, my mom reached over in the theater, covered my eyes.
But then she still took you back.
I think so. I'm trying to remember if we saw it multiple times. I'm pretty sure we did. Everyone saw it multiple times. And when that part came up, she covered my eyes again. When we watched it in elementary school, the teacher fast forwarded the movie, but I remember she fast forwarded it, and then the tape used to skip back a little bit. If you a few seconds, and it accidentally skipped back to the nude scene again, and she had to stand in front of it and keep going. So that shit, I don't know how or why they showed Titanic. I guess for the historical accuracy of it, but I think the teachers just wanted to see the movie again. It was huge.
I remember watching it. It was 6th grade. I remember that it was 6th grade, and we watched just a portion of it. But of course, the scene the teacher put on is the one where because she's talking about it or something, and it was led into the nude scene because she was whatever, and then she was going to put a blanket over the TV instead of fast forwarding it for that one little piece, but then she didn't put the blanket over in time, so we all saw everything anyway, and that was the first thing I remember, and I don't remember why we even watched it. It was just that nude scene. I'm sure everybody else remembers that. This time I really saw it, my friend had snuck into her parents' room and taken the 2 VHS tapes, and we had to turn it down real low so nobody knew we were watching it because we were too young. And we watched the whole thing and nobody knew. And then I was eating at Wendy's the few days afterwards, and the song came on, and I was like, oh shit, my parents know. I don't know why they would know, but nobody ever found out. So I'm gonna have to watch it again because I was scared both times that I watched it.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see what we both thought of it. It's been years since I've seen it too. But a huge thanks once again to Manu, Neil, John, Bobby, and Alexander for your Patreon support this month.
If you too would like to be a Patreon shout out for as little as $1 a month, that's just 25 cents an episode, you too can get your shout out every single month and help support the show.
If you would like to also represent the Brocat Core through t-shirts, mugs, or face masks. We have them available at thereasonsimbroke.com/merch. There's also a pull-down menu. You can just click on merch on there. But yes, there are face masks. There's the double-layered ones and then the regular face masks, different styles on them as well. There's Batman the Animated Series. There's a Brokehead Core logo. There's our show logo that we use, Darkwing Duck, all kinds of great designs on our TeePublic store. And the proceeds of that also go towards the podcast.
But of course, our podcast will always be free. The absolute best thing you can do is let other people know about us. Just send them the link. Just steal their device and subscribe.
That's right.
But word of mouth is the best and easiest way that our show gets spread.
As voted on by you, let's head into the comic book highlight of the week.
The comic book this week is Batman Superman number 10.
This is written by Joshua Williamson with art by Clayton Henry and colors by Alejandro Sanchez.
This was a very easy book to pick up if you hadn't been reading it prior. I haven't been. Start of a new arc, I guess. Batman Superman team up. Really easy to follow. I don't know what else you have to say. I mean, the story was kind of fun.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of substance to this issue at all. I think it was a very simple story. It involves the Ultra Humanite. It involves Atomic Skull, and there's a slight mystery to this, I guess. It sort of tries to pit Batman against Superman in a forced way through the villain, not in a way of like, oh, Batman got convinced. But literally like, if he doesn't do this, Batman might die type of thing. And there wasn't really much to the series, unfortunately. The artwork was okay, in my opinion. I think it was a little too digitized for my taste. It looks like a book that was drawn fully on an iPad or whatever. And that's fine for maybe, I guess, younger readers that are used to that artwork. But I think you and I are more, I don't know if you noticed it as much, but I think I'm more used to the hand-drawn pages that then get scanned and colored or drawn or inked and all of that. So it does look too clean, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
An example of this would be like the True Believers or the DC Dollar books where they recolor the original pages and it always looks a little bit off. So nothing essential about the artwork, in my opinion. The story was just all right. Joshua Williamson is a pretty solid writer, but I don't know. I think this one fell a little bit short.
I would agree with that. It felt like it was more meant for teens as opposed to, the standard run. Or something from like Superman the Animated Series. I could see except for all the zombies. That wouldn't happen in there. But yeah, I mean, I would be interested to see how the story finishes, but more I just want someone to tell me how the story finishes versus me continuing to read them.
There was some Superman loves Batman in there.
Yeah.
When Batman wouldn't talk to him, he's like, he hasn't talked to me, and I can't tell if he's ignoring me or if he's deep in thought. And I'm like, he's like, but I'm not leaving.
I'm just going to overthink everything.
I'm not in favor of breaking and entering. And Batman's like, don't worry. What do you say? Something like, it's on me.
Or no, he's like,
I'm
taking
taking
it
on. I own it.
Mm-hmm.
And Superman's like, of course you would. Of course you are. I'm like, Jesus, Superman.
No, it's more like, of course you are.
So for that, I mean, yeah, you get he nailed that part of it.
That is very true. But I feel like at this point, everybody just knows that that's who Superman is around Batman, like right? Book. Yeah.
It's as standard as, well, there's his red cape.
Right.
The S.
Same thing.
So you two can vote on what we talk about each podcast every Wednesday morning. I'll put up the poll on our new comic book day posts on Twitter. If you're on our Discord, I always put an add everyone on there so that it's a reminder that you can vote. But this is the one voted on by the Brokehead Core. And it was okay. Pretty standard. Especially after it was coming off of that Ra's al Ghul arc, which I really, really enjoyed. And that had artwork by Nick Darrington, who I really like. This is sort of a step down, but, I'll give it a few more issues. We'll see what happens in this arc and maybe the one after that. And then we'll go from there on whether or not we keep it on sub.
But that does wrap up our comic book highlight this week. And now we can move into our Brocat block. That's what happened with Daniel and I.
We had mentioned the podcast awards all month. As of the time that we're recording this, we don't know yet if we have successfully made it onto the slate again this year for either People's Choice and or Games and Hobbies. But either way, we want to take a moment to thank all of you who did come out and vote, and whether you screenshotted it or just voted, whatever it may be, however you supported or retweeted, thank you so much for churning out for this year's podcast awards and voting in to nominate us. If we don't get nominated this year, we'll try again for next year. But either way, we're still really grateful of our previous years of nominations. Our last year's win under Games and Hobbies, that was huge for us too. And all in all, just that you are there on the other side, still listening to this, still downloading this every week, that's what keeps the show going. So at the very base of this, awards or no awards, the fact that you're there listening and downloading each week, that's what matters.
Like Daniel said a little bit earlier, this show is a labor of love. We don't have a lot of time in our week, but this is something that we enjoy doing, and we enjoy doing it because you enjoy it. So keep reaching out to us on Twitter. Like you said, whether we make it through this year or not, we will still be here, and we love to hear from you.
You had a pretty huge week otherwise, though, on Brokeout Blog here. A win of sorts that you definitely got.
I did. I was nominated for something. So my company does something called the Manager of the Quarter, and it's not just within my district. It's out of the whole area. So all of Central Florida, 110 stores is roughly what we look at. And every district, all the managers nominate one manager, anonymously, not really anonymous, but like we don't know who each other vote for. And then from that, they all go into, so 8 different districts that then they go up into another tier, and then all the district managers vote from there. And we got to sit on an hour-long conference call about all these other things.
At coffeeawards.com.
And so I was nominated this round, which was pretty cool. And I expected it, at least for my district, right? I definitely, my store is in a really good place. We're doing some great things, and I'm very passionate about helping other people and helping other stores. So anytime somebody calls me for something, if it's product and I'm low on product, I'm like, yeah, take what you need. Like I would rather both of us run out at the same time rather than me be greedy and say I'm going to continue serving and you have nothing, right? Like but why are you laughing at me?
I'm enjoying the humility here.
Oh my goodness. I'm just trying to help. Anyway, I was nominated for my district, and that was so exciting.
Right. I remember you were nominated, and from the changes and scores that your store was receiving, I would have also been a little bit surprised if you weren't nominated for it because of the ranking that your store especially had. So not that I expected you to get nominated, but it was something that it's like, okay, that would make sense if she was nominated. So what happened after that?
And I was nominated.
Okay, well, that's it for you this week then,
No, I won!
You won Manager of the Quarter.
I did. Out of 110 stores, I was voted by all the district managers and the regional director as the manager who, I guess, did the most or exemplified our mission and values and elevated the store and changed the entire experience, not just for my employees, but for my store, were the words that my boss used. It was really great. It was a huge honor. And even though I expected to get nominated from my district, again, looking at all the metrics, right, I did not really expect it for the entire area because there's managers who do so many things for their community and, are also getting nice scores, but I guess not as good as mine. But it was really great. There were so many nice things said, and really just the high. Like this is the top. I can't go any higher than this.
Well, you could be emperor as well.
I mean, I am emperor already.
That's like every quarter,
though,
right?
Yeah. I'm the only one to vote for. So
well, that's the one above this, though. So
okay, perfect. So yeah, it was really, really great to receive that honor. In addition to that, my store came in second out of almost 900 stores in our fastest out the window time.
Nice.
So really awesome. We're probably going to be 10th again this week, but we were second last week. So that was pretty great to see too. And it was really nice and unexpected, and definitely reaffirms that I'm in the right place, because I have never, in the company that I was with for 10 years, had such wonderful, uplifting things said about me, and had both my peers and my management value me the way that I am here. So
does it come with a trophy?
It does, actually. I get this little plaque with my name on it, and it says Manager of the Quarter, and it's like wood and glass. And I don't know if I'm going to leave it at the store or bring it home. I feel it'd be cool to be able to see it at the store every day,
Right.
but at the same time, what if somebody knocks it off and breaks it because I'm not there all the time and I don't really want to cart it back and forth with me. So I haven't decided yet. I'll get it eventually. I don't have it yet.
Well, if you decide to bring it home, I can make some room next to our Podcast Awards 2019 trophy.
Perfect. So. Not quite as important as our podcast award, but
no,
pretty close.
Our podcast award thing has a little clear stand that it's on.
It does.
So it's even literally elevated above the statues. No, we're really that's great, and really proud of that we were able to receive that. And I think I told you the night before, like, don't expect to win, but you know, if it happens, that's amazing and that's great. Right. And it did happen for you, and I think that is amazing and that is great. So
my mom said I'm a superstar.
Now I imagine her putting a sticker, like a little star sticker on you.
Oh, good job. Yeah.
She can put it on your hand like Leo gets his stickers on his hand. That's amazing. So there you go, everyone. You are listening to one of your hosts here as a manager of the quarter for a very large coffee company. I'm
sure they have all figured it out by now.
All right, Folgers. So
yes, at the Folgers store.
There's an idea. Folgers, come on, get on this. It's Wawa.
Nobody's going through a Folgers drive-through.
On my end, I've got, this is going to be the first week in which we do the separate DC inventory that I was talking about last week. So I will find out tomorrow and the next day how this process goes. It sucks that I have to remotely work from home in addition to everything else this week, but it's at most maybe another hour out of my week. And I do get to do it from home. And I'm trying to spin that privilege, right? Where I don't have to do it from home. I get to do it from home. So
there you go.
What I'm trying to do. And that's something I've learned from several people throughout this past year, trying to apply that skill to other things. And I think that's going to be a test. But once I get used to it and get into the routine, then it's fine. I don't like the remote program. It doesn't, because I'm remoting into a PC from my Mac. So there's already some changes there as far as the keyboard shortcuts and changes. So I'm able to do it when I'm at work, but then when I'm at home, it's very different. So I'll figure it out. It is what it is. I have to do it. I get to do it, and that's fine. But that's mainly what I had this week. I've been busy with obviously pushing the podcast awards for the podcast here and programming the Discord bot to do all kinds of neat little things. My store is going to end up doing the 50 copies of the 3 Joker premium variant.
Okay.
I ended up I got more pre-orders than the owner's other store as far as the premium covers, and he's like, that's usually always the case. Like, he said that our store is good about getting a lot of pre-orders for covers and variants, and that's just the fact that we promote it and push it better than other stores, I guess. But in that way, when I told him, I was like, hey, this is the amount of pre-orders we have, it's not near 50. It's his money ultimately. I said, do you want to get these? Should we pass on them? Should we just try to get them from other stores? And he said, it's Batman 3 Jokers #1. There are a good amount of pre-orders for this premium cover. So go ahead and get the 50, and it's either way, it's a forever seller book. Batman 3 Jokers #1. If it's a great book, then it's a forever seller book that we can always sell. And I said, all right. And I did. I input the numbers. Well, he didn't realize that it's 3 covers that each need 50. And I put in the 50 copies so 150 covers. And he was like, oh, he told me after I submitted everything, and he's like, oh, I didn't realize that it was 3 covers. I'm like, yeah, DC wants 50 copies minimum for 3 covers. We could have just done it for 1 if you wanted, but I got the go ahead. And he's like, it's fine. We'll figure it out. So if we have to split it with one of his other stores or whatever it may be, fine. But I think we'll be okay, especially if it's a #1. I was able to accrue, I think, enough pre-orders to where it's like, all right, we'll have some extras hit the stands. And I think if some of the competing businesses, comic stores, don't qualify for that 50 copies, then, maybe some of their customers can pick up an extra copy at my shop. So I think it'll be okay. I think where it's really going to be difficult is with issues 2 and 3, because guess what? DC decided that issues 2 and 3 are also going to have a C through E cover that also require 50 minimum copies for each one. So that's 150 extra copies for issues numbers 2 and 3 of this 3-issue miniseries. So I'll cross that fucking bridge when I get there. I'm not happy about it. But at least for #1, we're theoretically getting all the covers.
You'll figure it out. Hopefully it's a fantastic series and everybody will just pre-order that one too.
Emperor Palpatelli had mentioned that she celebrated a birthday last week.
It was not a great year to turn. I am finally 30. Over the hill.
Over the hill. All broke cats over 30 are like, fuck you.
I think I mentioned last week that I slept funny on my shoulder last week. Couldn't really turn.
Hmm.
It is not stopped. I am feeling 30. So my back has hurt the entire week and the pain has just migrated. So it started in my shoulder and then it moved to the middle of my back and now it's just my entire back. So I don't know what's going on. Maybe I pinched a nerve. Maybe Leo's just too heavy for me to continually be carrying and throwing him around now. Who knows? But yeah, I celebrated 30. It was great. I had most of the week off, so I got to celebrate with my family and your family and of course with us. Oh, and we also rewatched the first Harry Potter, which I haven't seen since it released in theaters, and that was a lot of fun. Dumbledore is an asshole.
He fucking is a dick. From that all that bullshit point
stuff. Dick. That's what we're going to call it.
Well, even in the later movies and the later books, he is a fucking asshole. He put Snape through a lot of fucking shit, and I'm glad that J.K. wrote Snape to the point where he's like, don't you understand? I'm done. I'm sick of doing this. I don't want to do this. And he pretty much uses Lily as like, oh, really? You're not gonna, because it's Harry's, and it's such a he's not a good character, I don't think.
No,
Dumbledore.
He's terrible.
I think there's better characters in Harry's life than the fucking Dumbledore.
Well, and here's the thing, like I get as a 10-year-old, right? If I got to that scene as a 10, 11-year-old where he was like, Slytherin won, but wait, Gryffindor, I got these secret points for you. I would be like, yeah, Slytherin, great job, Gryffindor. But now as an adult, I'm like, no wonder they're all evil. No wonder they hate you and hate Hogwarts because you decorated the whole fucking place in Slytherin, told them they won, and then took it away in front of everybody and just like made a mockery of them.
Now, these books were for kids, so I guess it did the right thing, but as an adult, you're like, fuck this goddamn Dumbledore bitch.
This goddamn Dumbledore bitch.
He's a beachant.
And then there was that Karen in that movie that we never see again.
Oh, the flying,
Hooch.
the broom teacher.
Madam
There
Hooch.
You go, Madam Hooch.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you call her Flying Karen?
Because she's got like the Karen haircut. She busts in there and she's like, you're all nobody fly or I'm calling the manager. But then I guess you never see her again. That's just.
Yeah, I don't remember her in the other movies.
All right. She called the manager and she never visited this establishment again.
But it will eventually, I think, make it to the rest of the films. I really enjoyed watching the first one. It had been a while since I'd seen them, and a lot of people do Harry Potter marathons, and I'm like, fuck yeah, why don't we do one? Yeah, we should
separated into half a movie a night for many months.
Yeah. But thank you all so much for tuning in this and every single week. I think that's it for our show. We can go ahead and close out. As always, you can find us on Twitter at Reasons I'm Broke and at Kelli. For a link on everywhere you can find us, though, head on over to thereasonsimbroke.com. Scroll all the way to the bottom and you will find our social media links and also our podcast links to all the different apps. You can also subscribe to the show in case there's an app that you normally listen to us or listen to your podcasts on. And you're like, oh shit, they're on iHeartRadio. You can click on the link on there and it'll take you to the subscribe section.
As always, thank you so much for tuning in. I am your Emperor, Kelli.
And I am Associate Producer Daniel.
I'm Broke at Core.
All will be well. Unlike Tom King and Jay Lee, all is well over here. Just had to take that little jab.
Just spill that tea right there. Piping hot.